All right. Good morning. Welcome to our Crosstalk podcast for Pearl Harbor Day. This is December 7th, 80 years ago. That Sunday morning, we know that the world was changed. So we remember that moment. It's also Advent, and we're going to talk about joy. So I didn't mean to lead us with such a serious
peace.
Excuse me, with peace.
You're jumping a week.
Sunday is joy. This is peace. We're going to talk about peace. Well, it's a good conversation then on a day like December 7 for us to think about what is peace and what is the deeper meaning of peace. So, first of all, we're supposed to light the candles because we're good Methodists, and we want to light the candle of hope and then the candle of peace. And we have our little Advent wreath on our table this morning, and during the season of Advent, we are waiting for the coming of the Christ child, but we're also waiting. We remember the coming of the Christ child, but we also are awaiting the return of Jesus to make all of this mess make sense. So it's good to be here. Hope you're here. Hope you're awake. If you're watching this delayed, thanks for watching us. If you're watching us live, chime in, give us some questions about peace, and we're going to talk about peace. So what is peace? Define peace, and we'll talk about different definitions, I guess, of peace.
Well, to me, it's an inner tranquility.
An inner tranquility.
Or the more modern way to say it would be like an inner zen. You know, to have that calm.
So when you think of peace, you don't think like hippies with peace symbols and so that's what my first thought is. The culture tells me peace is like something that Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan talked about, or going way back, Richard Nixon talked to the Chinese Communist Party about. There was this like peace. We need peace, man. Like get out of Vietnam. But you go straight to the inner sort of understanding of peace.
I used to be the kind of the hippie peace, love, and happiness thing, but then I got into the actual spiritual inner calmness inside of me because being the way I was, I had so many inner demons that were fighting back and forth constantly that I had to have that. I had to learn how to let go and bring God in to get rid of the demons, which brought the peace.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at Merriam-Webster on the internet right now, and the first one is a state of tranquility or quiet, such as freedom from civil disturbance, or a state of security or order within community. I think you're right. I think it's an inner peace, harmony between two people. There's another way to think of it. So it starts with the self, and it kind of emanates out. So is everybody else pretty peaceful? You guys?
When I think of peace, I'm similar to you. The inner tranquility that's not the first thing that comes to my head. But normally, peace to me is like no war, no hate, no crime. That's peace. And the world needs peace. The whole world does. There's definitely a lot that we can all use a little bit of peace in our lives. But definitely nowadays, I want to have inner peace more so than anything. And since I've started my journey on following Christ, and God and being baptized and everything, I've started to have inner peace like you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. We have a comment. It says, what is the full meaning of the Hebrew term shalom?
I think of shalom as sort of an all-encompassing, God-centered peace.
Peace be with you.
So shalom, Jerusalem, Salem, Jerusalem, this idea of what will be in Christ or in God. if you really get down to what is peace. Peace is that thing. For me, the image of peace comes in Revelation 21 when there's the tree at the river of life, and it just sort of is this end experience, this full experience of what it will be like, what creation will be like when there is no discord, there is no sin and brokenness, there is no harm to others. So shalom, we really chase after shalom, I guess. Or if we're following Jesus, we're chasing after shalom.
According to Google, the Hebrew meaning of shalom is peace. Is a Hebrew word meaning peace, harmony, wholeness, completeness, prosperity, welfare, and tranquility, and can be used idiomatically to mean both hello and goodbye.
Yeah, shalom, 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 Shabbat shalom. I don't know. Shalom for me is obviously I think the most. It's kind of like what we're all supposed to aspire to, but it's also that thing that seems to, as soon as you think you found it, you really haven't. And shalom, peace in general, is something that seems to elude us. The peace of the Lord. I think of Jesus' line in John. I think it's John 14. My peace I give to you. I think he says my peace I leave you, my peace I give to you. Follow me and find peace in me. So what is peace of the Lord? Like, what is really truly the peace of the Lord?
To me, the word peace, and I'm bad paraphrasing my own Bible, but peace surpasses all understanding. And in the middle of strife, turmoil, trying to make a decision, that's when I turn to God, and he kind of settles issues. It's like becomes peaceful to me is calm. It's like the stilling of the wind, waves on a lake. When the lake looks like it's very glassy. It's so in the middle of something. To me, God gives me peace to try to figure out what's going on. So I guess it would be sense of tranquility. It's more than tranquility, though. It's like it clears up things. Mm-hmm. The clarity, I guess, is the word I'm grasping for. Mm-hmm. But that goes with God,
One thing that also stands out in my mind is Psalm 23:4. Yes, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. That is peace. Like, even though there is hate and evil and death and all these horrible things around us, people understanding that so long as you have faith in him, God is with you. No matter what you're going through, it's going to be okay. As long as you believe one way or another, even if it ends in the unfortunateness of your death or somebody's death. Yes, even though these things have happened, God is going to take care of you. It is going to be okay in this life or the next.
The Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? That I say that at least 3 and 4 times a day, because that, to me, that's very peaceful. Who do I need to be afraid of?
Well, see, one thing too that comes to my mind is it's a hymn that we've sang numerous times. It is well.
Oh yes.
Because if you look at the story about how the guy wrote the song, his wife and kids, one died in the fire, like one of his kids. Then his wife and daughter were on a ship that sunk.
That's the one that's sunken.
And the only thing he got was a telegram that said, "Saved alone." That's all it said, and it was from his wife. So he goes on a ship going over to meet his wife, and when he passes where his daughter died at, he's like, God calms the winds, and it is well.
It is well with my soul. That's right. That hymn, to me, in my mind, not verbalizes, but I can feel peace. Oh, yeah. If I had to explain it, just singing that.
Well, the first line of it starts out, peace like a river.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only reason we talk about peace is because we know that we live in an unpeaceful world, and our reality can be unpeaceful. And if it was easy to find peace, we wouldn't worry about chasing after it so much. But it does seem to be elusive, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, I don't know why.
Because every time you turn around, nobody's preaching peace. And once it's the act, everything in an upheaval, turning it upside down, and it's just like boiling water, and you can't live like that. And well, some people do. I don't know how they do it.
It's like you were talking about being hungry. Like it's never ending. Like the next day, you're gonna need to figure it out again.
And it's turmoil. In the midst of turmoil, and you make stupid decisions in the middle of turmoil.
Yeah.
Because to me, you have to be peaceful to be able to sort things out.
Well,
Another one is, I lift up mine eyes into the hills. And, that to me it says a lot. See, I like meditation, solitude, whatever, but you have to kind of back up. Just you and God straighten things out. For example, this morning, I text one of my children. I said, God will help you figure out how to do this.
Yep.
And I believe that. And to me, that comes from the peace of God. That's why I laugh and say, even though I don't worship a church or a building, God, the left-hand corner of that church up there, he's right there. He is right there.
Now, is that stage left or is that?
So I'm looking, it's my left.
So stage right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's right up there in the
I didn't
corner.
know that. I just didn't know.
You can't explain it, but I know he's there. And, I sometimes sit there and think, I'm so busy telling him what he needs to do. I know he has to laugh and think, will you just shut up and be quiet? Listen. And that's what happens. That to me, that's peace. Where you're not so busy telling God what you need, what you do, why don't you do this, blah, blah. Just shut up and listen to him. He'll help you figure it out.
That's definitely one thing that's hard for people to do is just sit down and listen.
And be quiet, yeah.
Be quiet. Like there are some times when your input is not needed at all. You just need to sit and listen. And it's weird how sometimes I remember I was sitting in my car one day, driving back to the house from the church, and I asked God a question. And that particular day, I got a direct answer. I heard it in my head. I heard him answer. And to me, that is one of the hardest things to do, is just sometimes, even if you're expecting an answer, sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes that's what God's answer is. Like, oh, I want this. Like, no.
No, you don't really need it.
No, you don't. But that is peace to me, is like knowing that if I just sit down and listen. There are many things that are peace to me, but this in particular, if I just sit down and listen for 5 minutes, I will get an answer. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, and it might not even be an answer I want. But I'm going to get an answer one way or another.
And see, sometimes, like when you like you said, sometimes the answer is no, or you don't get an answer. If we look back at the story of Balaam and his donkey, sometimes it's to keep us from harm that's coming our way. Balaam was riding a donkey, and an angel kept getting in front of the donkey and trying to steer it out of the way. Well, Balaam kept kicking the donkey because it wouldn't go, and there was danger in front of it. So the donkey, the angel was steering it away. And finally, the angel appeared to Balaam and said, look, quit kicking your donkey because it's trying to save you.
Well, the donkey started talking too. That'll do it every time.
That would have got my attention.
Well, the angel actually talked through the donkey.
I gotta look up this story. What is it?
Balaam and the donkey.
That's
Balaam
right.
and the donkey.
Yeah,
Okay.
Balaam's donkey started talking to him like, stop this.
Yeah, like, why are you kicking me, dude?
If that was happening, I would definitely feel like, Doc, I need to be medicated.
Yeah,
Something is not right.
Balaam may have not known what he had ingested at the town behind him. I think peace, for me, the thing that keeps me as uneasy as anything is not knowing sort of the days ahead. That just drives me crazy.
That's human nature.
Just drives me crazy.
What's
But
ahead of
peace is supposed to be to be okay with whatever comes.
And see, I have problems like with Netflix or movies. I like reading a book because I want to read the end of the book before I get to it. I want to find out how it's going to work out. My family laughs at me the whole time because, you can't, it won't go forward. But see, I'm a big believer that God gives you whatever you need to figure out whatever's going to happen to you. But sometimes you have to shut up long enough for him to work in you. But you're so busy telling him what he needs to do, he can't get his words in edgewise. And see, I think God talks to us directly and through other people.
I don't ever tell God, you need to do this. I always like, God, can you help me with this?
I
Can you help this person?
I used to
with
give him a
that?
grocery list every day. You know, I need this, that, the other.
Yeah, no.
I have
We have another comment too. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
uh-huh.
It says, and they woke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear, and said to one another, Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?
That's when Christ was walking on the water.
That was when there was the storm and Christ was sleeping in the boat.
Oh, yeah.
He got out and walked on the water.
Yeah.
How would you feel if you looked up and some of these kids walk across the water?
It's almost like a donkey talking to you.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
whoa! You know.
Doc, I need to up my medication.
I have that. I have a print of the Rembrandt painting. That was my birthday gift last year of the storm, and it's got all the 12 disciples and Jesus being awakened in the storm. It's a beautiful painting, and there's a 13th or 14th person in it. It's Rembrandt, and he's got his hand on his forehead, looking at the person looking at the painting. I don't know if you knew this, but Rembrandt painted himself into a lot of paintings.
Oh, yeah.
I've read
Kind of
that.
like Alfred Hitchcock would show up and all that. And he's looking at you, and he's just this little character on the edge of the boat. He's looking at you like, can you believe this? And I every time I look at that, because I think of the storm, that we're in a storm in our world. Our world is in a storm. But Rembrandt looking at me going, can you believe this? And I think, yeah, I can't believe this either. You know, it's just sort of I'm aghast at how furious the storms of life can be. And the older I get, the more storms and my natural reaction is to back away. Or then sometimes my angry reaction is to press in.
That's
and
right.
Either way, I can't back away, and it's not healthy for me to press in on my own. And so only God can really walk us through this.
And in the story about Christ walking on the water, of course, Peter, it was Peter, right?
Yes.
Peter goes to sink when he takes his eyes off of Christ. What a message to all of us. Mm-hmm. When life is upside down, inside out, you fail not to talk to God and be quiet and listen to Him. That's when you sink. That's when you become so unpeaceful. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many people have trouble going to sleep at night? See, I think sometimes that is lack of peace for some people. I don't know. You know, when you close your eyes, I sometimes think I'd like to cut my mind off. It's like the gerbil on the wheel, and it's just going round and round and round and round and round. That's when God just steps in and says, all right, enough's enough. And but people don't believe, but they don't. It's amazing to me how many non-believers there are in the world.
One thing that kind of gets me is life is kind of like quicksand. Like the more you struggle, the faster you're going to sink.
That's a pretty good analogy.
It's when you really like slow down and like kind of like start working your way very slowly over to the side of the quicksand, and you have to calm down, that you stop sinking, and part of you is actually able to start floating and get yourself out of there. Life is like quicksand. The more you struggle, especially against God, the more you struggle, the faster and harder it is. The faster you're going to sink, and the harder it is to get yourself out.
To go to your thing about, wanting to know what's coming ahead. Boy, that's interesting for me. I look at my youngest grandchild. We were together over Thanksgiving. I looked at him and I thought, when you are 30 years old, I won't be here. That's kind of,
Yeah.
jump back. Then deal with another grandchild who is having problems with something they want. Trying to convince them that sometimes by God saying no, He knows, you have to have faith that He knows what's best for you. As bad as I wanted something, when you don't get it, of course, hindsight's always better than foresight. You have to have faith that He knows. Maybe this is His way of saying, no, you don't need that. You don't need to go that direction. You go another one.
The next comment actually builds on what you just said. It says, Pastor described the animal instinct or fight or flight. But God will put us peace through faith in the middle of the storm. in place of fear and anger.
That's right. It is hard. It's easy to say, "Oh, I'm gonna trust God," but when you're talking with someone who, and you know what they want, looks good, it's what would be great for them if they can't get it. To sit there and say, maybe God, you have to have faith that this is not. Now, if you accept that, not getting it, then you can live in peace. But as long as you don't ever accept, you're always going to be in turmoil. Why can't I have that? What have I done wrong? And that's where the idea of, poor old Job, his 3 friends. You're in trouble because you did something bad. We still have a lot of friends that say that. You screwed up, buddy.
It's kind of like children throwing a tantrum when they don't get what they want.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we are all God's children, and there are times when we get told no, and we just throw a tantrum. In one way or another, we're all just throwing tantrums when we don't get what we want.
But sometimes I think it's good to be by yourself. And I know at a point of our life, I just had to turn to God and say, why is this happening to me? Why is this going on? Then you start listing everything that you've done right. I've done this, I've done that. Blah, blah, blah. This is not supposed to happen to me. And I'm sure God is up there laughing and thinking, well, there was only one perfect person in the world, and you know what happened to him. And you're far from perfect. God uses these things for you to see your real self. And I believe that.
It's like Paul told Timothy before he was martyred. Paul knew he was going to die. And he told Timothy, you're going to suffer afflictions and long sufferings. But if you stay the course with God, he'll be there with you. He'll never leave you or forsake you. And I know that's paraphrased and kind of.
Hey, that's my kind of Bible.
But it's if we get into Scripture, it actually tells us everything we need to know in life. And if we look at the Advent wreath, and you look at the Book of Revelation, we right now we're waiting to celebrate the first coming of Christ at his birth. The Advent wreath to me also symbolizes a great deal of the second coming of Christ in the Book of Revelation, because you have the hope of him coming, the peace that we know that when we get to heaven there's going to be no more pain, no more suffering, no more tears. It describes heaven in the Bible, and it tells us there will be no more pain, no more suffering, no more tears. And then you see the joy that we feel of being there. And then you had the overabundant grace and love of God.
Peace is what allows me to get through every day. I mean, no offense or anything, but I guess my least favorite book in the whole Bible is Revelation. I just prefer not to think about that.
Well, it scares a lot of people.
I just don't think about that. I want to know how am I gonna pay bills this month? How am I gonna meet a mortgage? How am I gonna deal with everyday life? Someone said the other day that young people, the reason we've lost a lot of young people in the church is that we're not giving them anything that they can take out of church and put in their life. In other words, they don't see it as being real. To me, the peace of God is very real. His peace allows you to figure things out. And, you have to have faith that whatever's in front of us is going to be okay. When I look at the Advent wreath, I always think about a year from what happened this last year. And whenever we get it out every year, I always say, well, I wonder what next year, what's going to happen in the year coming? Lighting of the candles to me is just, we do it, no big ceremony, but the grandchildren do it. And it's like, thank you, God. This morning, all my children responded and just said good morning. And I just felt this need. So I responded back. You have no idea how peaceful and wonderful it is to hear my children tell me good morning. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, it was 5:30 in the morning. They're like, what are you up so early for, Dad? What's the matter? But to me, peace for God comes from my relationship with God. And you use that peace to help those around you. I think in my life, my greatest mentors were usually very peaceful within their own self. There's a calmness in your soul.
So what's the balance between, where's the balance of peace in our godly peace between doing what it takes to survive, like pay the mortgage, make sure the car's in the shop, make sure I'm going to the gym. And Rip Van Winkle, who slept his life away and lived a peaceful life on the,
But was it really peaceful?
what a waste.
That's me.
But it was a peaceful waste.
But see,
He
I
woke up,
don't think God. I think if here I am judging.
So like I just the laziness versus where's the work ethic? I mean, good Protestant work ethic in the midst of peace. I don't know.
You did. Rip Van Winkle did not have my mother and daddy. I can tell you that right now.
Well, it's like this morning got up, went to the gym. Sarah was getting up to do her workout, and she said, "Oh, my wife Sarah, she said, oh, I'd love to just go back to sleep." And I said, "Yeah, we could all be a Rip Van Winkle for a day." And it's the story of the lazy. He's peaceful. Nothing's wrong. Rip Van Winkle wakes up and his life has passed him by. So to be peaceful to that extent, I'm trying to figure out the balance.
See,
We all are, I think.
I think again, going back to the talents, God gives us all talents, different talents. He gave you the talent to preach. I've yet to
Sometimes.
figure out what my talent is. Maybe I have no idea. But anyway, he gives us all different talents. Brian's is technology. I don't know what he's doing. Couldn't do it if I had my life depended on it. Brandon's talent is being very honest and truthful and open. But he expects us to use the talents. If you're asleep, you're not using them.
Right.
You don't waste your life. My daddy used to say, "Oh, it just drives me crazy," as he got older. "We can't get out of this house till 9 o'clock in the morning. The day is half done." I thought,
right.
"Oh my word."
That's right.
So, what's the balance between it?
Because it can lead to workaholism. It can lead to
Well, I think a workaholic doesn't. If you've got the peace of
diminished
God, you moderate. They're equal. You take periods. There's nothing wrong with having a period of calmness and doing nothing and sitting for a minute and getting your breath and watching a fire in the fireplace, or in my case, sitting on the hill and looking at. To me, nature gives you a lot of peace. I don't want my cows to start talking to me like that darn donkey.
the world seems to give us an ambition that does not lead to peace. For
They don't want you to be peaceful.
wealth, prosperity, bigger, better, stronger.
Oh yeah, more
faster.
and more,
Yeah.
and got to have a bigger house. Got to have the best car.
The pictures of people walking down red carpets, and these are the images that we're sort of fed that are given to us as idealistic. And that's I saw a 60 Minutes article, and they were showing the new Gucci, and it was just like basically a gobbledygook of ugly. Mm-hmm. And they were claiming it was the new thing, and I thought, this is awful. This is not beauty. And in that was this sort of air of peace, but it was really not peace that was being projected into me.
And see, I think a lot of the unpeaceful situations people find themselves in as adults is they end up in a career or a job that they really do not like, they don't feel wanted or needed, and that creates turmoil within you. It creates conflict.
We have a question. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus calls on us to be peacemakers, at least some of us. What does that mean in today's world?
Well, blessed are the peacemakers. Without knowing who gave that question, blessed are the. I think Jesus is saying that God's blessing is upon those who are willing to bring people together rather than to divide them. I don't know, that may be too simplistic, but
not create problems.
Right. So I tell a story about, it's kind of a funny story to me, at least it's funny, about my trip to Israel. We were going to Bethlehem, which is on the West Bank, across the border into sort of not Israel, but the Palestine side of Israel. And we go into the Church of the Nativity, and it's us and of us being Methodists from North Georgia, and a bunch of Orthodox Russians.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just equally as white as the driven snow.
Yeah.
We're all marching down the church, sort of the church center aisle. We're all walking unknowingly to each other because we can't hear. We know each other's Russian or English or American, but we certainly weren't talking to each other. We get to the steps that descend into the cave underneath the altar that was built over Jesus' birthplace, and we all realize we are all our schedule has been sort of messed up, and all of us were supposed to be there by our own schedules at 3:00, and the tour guides began to yell at each other, and they were madder and mad, and one was certain that they were right and the other one was wrong, and they just it escalated into something that was like a Cold War, right? And meanwhile, the Orthodox Christians from the Russian Orthodox Christians from Russia, and then the Methodist Christians from North Georgia just sort of looked at each other like well, what's going on here? Like, nothing's wrong with us. Like, we all just want to see Jesus' birthplace. But in the midst of that was this sort of created conflict. And none of us could care less. We could care less. We just wanted to go down there. So finally, our Bishop Watson, said, tell you what, let's take 15 minutes and get a group picture. Let those Russians go down there and see it first. And then the Russians went on down, and then we stayed up, took a group picture on top at the altar rail, and once the Russians had filed out, we filed in. And it was just, blessed are the peacemakers. There was my bishop. Bishop Watson could see, like, hey, who cares? This is not worth getting upset about. We're at the birthplace of Jesus, and we're not going to fight about this. And so the point was,
what would he be doing right now if he was witnessing the two of those guys fight?
And for me, it was like, I was thinking, like, my grandfather used to stare across the abyss at the Russians, in the 60s, and they stared at us, and it was really stupid. I mean, it was not stupid. There was reason, but honestly, we did not need to be at each other. And so I think blessed are the peacemakers, those who are willing to de-escalate.
In today's world, I think the thing that does most to harm peace is the media.
Absolutely.
They do not want peace.
Our fear, our willingness to sort of engage it.
Fear. I mean, you preached on fear. John the Baptist being afraid, and the media plays on that. I mean, look at the news every morning. It's like, give me a break. I mean, come on.
Well, and the fear that if we jump into it, then we lose peace.
Yeah.
If we engage it, like, I must get this, I must have, this, and this to be peaceful. No. Jesus will lead you to the things you need to do. Like, hey, it's going to be cold. You might want to grow some things in the ground this summer.
Or put on a coat. And
maybe store them away so that you don't have to starve in the winter. Like, this is a good, godly thing to think about. Or maybe I need to put shoes on my daughter, like she needs shoes. These are constructive things in this world that do not harm others, that actually bring benefit to others, but not fear.
To stir up a political question, it's like with the vaccine and the booster shot. At our house, of course, Melody had COVID, and we feel like she has natural immunity, and so do I. But I had a good friend who said, if God is going to take me out, He's going to take me out with this, and what am I worried about? Sure. And that's exactly right. I'm so afraid that I can't trust God to take care of me. And this lady got on I lost my great aunt, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, so their time ran out. See, I believe that God set a clock when I was born.
Right.
And when that clock
like
dings.
A good Presbyterian.
Oh, yeah. When it dings, I'm going to be gone. That's just the way it is. Whether it's with virus or whether it's an automobile accident or old age or what.
Yeah.
I believe that.
And so you weave into that sort of understanding of predestination from a Presbyterian perspective. I always weave in my good Protestant work ethic. Like, there's something I need to be doing.
Yes, right.
But it's fear that takes hold of that. Like, I better do it, or else I'm going to shame my family. I'm going to not do the work that I should have done in my church. I'm going to be considered lazy. All the fear-based things get in me. And Satan uses those.
Go back to the parable with the master and the servant. Well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
See, I hope when I see Christ, He's going to look at me. Maybe by then I've figured out whatever talents He's given me, that I've used them. I want Him to be able to say, yep, you used what I gave you.
Yes.
Well done, good and faithful servant. That to me is peace of God right there.
When my heart stopped when I was sick, about 7 years ago now, the only reason I am back is because, not that I saw God or saw heaven or anything like that, but when my heart stopped, God said, it's not your time.
That's right.
it is not the time for you to come see me. And since then, there has to be something on this earth that I am meant to do that is bigger than what I was doing.
And you know, Brandon, I feel like we may not know that. We may not ever know it till after we cross, the old folks like cross the river.
But there is a reason why something has called me to this church. There is a reason why something has called me to go to Athens College of Ministry. There is a reason for that. I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Not a clue. But it's not for me to know right now. Sure. I'm just supposed to do what my gut, what my soul, what the grace of God is telling me
That's
to do.
right.
And that does help bring peace to me.
Yes.
And you only get that peace by communicating with God.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be in some formal situation. I pray a lot, used to when I ran. I do a lot of it now, walking I do. That's the way you get it. That's when you figure it out within yourself. So that's God working in you. I feel that He has a plan for us. I'm Presbyterian, Methodist, whatever, I don't care. It works for me. Maybe it's all, I've incorporated all these journeys I've had, all these different theologies, but it works. And I believe that. I agree with you that when your time is up, it's up.
Yeah.
So that's shalom. Just knowing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we've run out of time. God bless you all. May the peace of the Lord be with you. And bring your questions forward. We'll keep answering them if we can. I'm not saying we'll answer them correctly, but I hope that this season is a peaceful time for all of us here at the table. We have had so much dis-ease in our world
That's a good word.
and our community, and in our we've all held on tightly to something, and hopefully that's Jesus. And if you're not holding on to Jesus, I encourage you to go sit down in your chair and just pray and seek that peace. And may God's peace overflow in all of us. God bless you. Have a good rest of your day.